The smell of her expensive perfume should have been my first warning. Vanessa never wore Chanel No. 5 for grocery runs or PTA meetings, and she sure as hell never wore it for quiet Thursday nights at home with her husband of 10 years and our 2 kids. I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing engineering specs for a new product launch, watching my wife apply lipstick in the hallway mirror with the precision of a surgeon. The red was darker than usual, almost burgundy, the kind of shade that screamed trouble in any language. "Going somewhere special?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light despite the knot forming in my stomach. Vanessa didn't even glance my way. Out. Out where, exactly? I closed the laptop, giving her my full attention. It's Thursday night. Dylan has that math test tomorrow, and Chloe's been asking for help with her art project. She finally turned, and I saw something in her green eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger, not frustration, but something colder. Something that made me freeze. "The kids will be fine, Ethan. You're perfectly capable of handling bedtime for once." For once? I handled bedtime plenty of times. I was the one who read Dylan his chapter books and helped Chloe with her drawings most nights while Vanessa worked late at the law firm. But pointing that out would only escalate whatever this was becoming. "I'm not questioning your right to go out, Van. I'm just asking where you're going. Is that unreasonable?" She grabbed her purse from the console table, checking her reflection one more time. The black dress she wore was new, something I'd never seen before, and it hugged her curves in a way that made it clear she wasn't dressed for a casual dinner with girlfriends. "If you must know, I'm meeting my ex." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Your ex? Which ex?" "Mark Turner. He's in town for business." Mark Turner. I remembered him from Vanessa's stories about college, though she'd stopped mentioning him years ago. Tall, charming, the kind of guy who drove expensive cars and always seemed to land on his feet no matter what. The kind of guy who'd broken my wife's heart when they were 22, sending her into my arms on the rebound. "Vanessa, that's completely inappropriate. You're married. We have children upstairs." She whirled around, and the fury in her eyes made me take a step back. "Don't you dare lecture me about appropriate, Ethan. I've been the perfect wife and mother for 10 years. I've sacrificed my social life, my freedom, everything for this family. I deserve one night to remember who I used to be. This isn't about deserving anything. This is about respect, about our marriage vows, about—" "I'll cheat once," she snapped, cutting me off mid-sentence. "Don't make it a problem. You need to understand me." The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Dylan's video game upstairs. I stared at my wife, this woman I'd loved for over a decade, the mother of my children, and felt like I was looking at a complete stranger. "You'll what?" "You heard me." Her voice was steady now, almost clinical. "I'm going to sleep with Mark tonight. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. You can either accept it and move on, or you can make this harder than it needs to be." I felt the room spinning slightly, like I'd been sucker punched. "Vanessa, listen to yourself. This is insane. You can't just announce you're going to cheat on your husband like you're announcing dinner plans." "I can, and I am." She adjusted her purse strap, checking her phone. "Mark's waiting at the Marriott downtown. I'll be back in the morning, and we can pretend this never happened if that makes you feel better." "Pretend it never happened?" My voice was rising, despite my efforts to keep it down. The last thing I wanted was for Dylan and Chloe to hear this conversation. "You want me to pretend my wife didn't just walk out to sleep with another man?" "I want you to understand that I need this." Her tone softened slightly, but the determination remained. "I love you, Ethan. I love our life together, but I need to know what it feels like to be desired again, to feel alive again. Mark makes me feel like the woman I was before I became just a wife and mother." "Just a wife and mother?" The words tasted bitter. "Is that really how you see our life? Our family?" "Don't twist my words. You know what I mean." But I didn't know what she meant. Not really. I thought we'd been happy. Sure, marriage wasn't always easy, and raising 2 kids while both of us worked demanding jobs was exhausting, but I'd never imagined Vanessa felt trapped. I'd never imagined she'd been planning something like this. "How long have you been talking to him?" I asked quietly. She hesitated for just a moment, and in that hesitation I saw the truth. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This had been planned. A few weeks. He reached out on LinkedIn, said he was coming to Boston for work. We grabbed coffee last Tuesday to catch up. Last Tuesday? I remembered that day. She'd said she had a client meeting that ran late. "You lied to me." "I omitted details. There's a difference." Not to me, there isn't." Vanessa glanced at her phone again. "I have to go. Mark's already at the hotel. If you walk out that door, Vanessa, everything changes. You understand that, right? There's no coming back from this." She looked at me for a long moment, and I thought maybe I'd gotten through to her. Maybe she'd realize what she was about to throw away. Instead, she kissed my cheek like she was leaving for a business trip. "I'll see you in the morning, Ethan. Try not to wait up." The front door slammed behind her with a finality that echoed through our house like a gunshot. I stood in the kitchen, still holding my laptop, trying to process what had just happened. Upstairs, I could hear Dylan's game and Chloe humming to herself as she colored. They had no idea their mother had just walked out to destroy our family. I sank onto the couch, my hands shaking slightly as I set the laptop aside. 10 years of marriage reduced to, "I'll cheat once, don't make it a problem." Like our vows were negotiable, like our family was disposable. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Left my charger. Don't wait up. Love you. Love you." She just announced her intention to commit adultery and ended it with "love you" like she was running to the grocery store. I needed to call someone, but who? My parents? They'd be horrified and probably drive over immediately, which would wake the kids and create more drama. Vanessa's parents? They'd probably blame me somehow, ask what I'd done to drive their perfect daughter into another man's arms. Then I remembered something Vanessa had mentioned about Mark during one of her college stories. He'd been married young, divorced, then married again. If he was in Boston for business and meeting up with his ex-girlfriend, chances were good his current wife had no idea. I found Mark Turner easily enough on social media. Real estate developer, successful by all appearances, with a profile full of expensive vacations and business achievements. More importantly, he was married to a woman named Julia Turner, a nurse at Boston General. They had 2 kids, roughly the same ages as Dylan and Chloe. My hands were still shaking as I found the hospital's main number and asked to be transferred to the nursing station where Julia worked. It was almost 10 p.m., but if she worked night shifts, she might be there. "This is Julia," a tired voice answered after several rings. "Julia Turner? You don't know me, but my name is Ethan Jarrett. I think we need to talk about our spouses." There was a long pause. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your husband Mark is currently at the Marriott downtown with my wife Vanessa. They're not discussing business." Another pause, longer this time. "Who is this really?" "I'm Ethan Jarrett. My wife just walked out of our house 20 minutes ago after announcing she was going to cheat on me with your husband. She said he was in town for business and they'd been talking for weeks. Mark told me he had a client dinner tonight. He said he'd be late." "I don't think he's eating dinner, Julia. At least not the kind you're thinking of." I heard her take a shaky breath. "Can you prove this?" My wife announced it to my face. She said Mark was waiting for her at the Marriott. She was dressed like she was going to seduce someone, wearing perfume she only wears for special occasions. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. "Jesus." Her voice was barely a whisper. I knew something was wrong. He's been secretive with his phone lately, working late more often. I thought maybe he was planning a surprise for our anniversary next month. "I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but I figured you deserved to know what your husband was really doing tonight." "Where are you now?" she asked. "At home. My kids are upstairs, asleep. They don't know what happened. Mine are at my mother's tonight. Mark said he'd be too late to help with bedtime." She laughed bitterly. I guess he was right about that. "Julia, I know this is a lot to process, but would you be willing to meet? I think we need to figure out what we're going to do about this." "You want to meet? Tonight?" I know it sounds crazy, but I can't just sit here waiting for my wife to come home from cheating on me. And you shouldn't have to face this alone either. She was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally, she said, "I get off shift at 11. Can you meet me at the Denny's on Route 1? "I'll be there." Julia Turner looked nothing like I'd expected. From Mark's social media photos, I'd pictured someone polished and put together, the kind of woman who'd marry a successful real estate developer. Instead, the woman sliding into the booth across from me at Denny's looked exhausted and real, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her scrubs wrinkled from a long shift. "You look like your Facebook profile," she said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "I stalked you on the drive over. Hope you don't mind." Under the circumstances, I think we're past normal social boundaries. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Yeah, I guess we are. So tell me exactly what happened tonight." I walked her through the entire conversation, from Vanessa's unusual preparation to her casual announcement about cheating, to the way she'd kissed my cheek goodbye like she was leaving for work. Julia listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. "She really said, 'I'll cheat once, don't make it a problem?'" Julia asked when I finished. Word for word, like she was doing me a favor by limiting it to once. She shook her head. "That's sociopathic. Who says that to their husband? Apparently, my wife does. I took a sip of coffee, grimacing at the bitter taste. What's Mark been like lately? Any changes in behavior? Julia pulled out her phone, scrolling through text messages. Look at this. 3 weeks ago, he started working late more often. Always client dinners, always important meetings that couldn't be rescheduled, and look at these texts. She showed me a conversation from the previous Tuesday, the same day Vanessa had claimed to have a late client meeting. Mark. Running late tonight. Client dinner went longer than expected. Julia. No problem. Kids are fed and homework's done. Love you. Mark. Love you too. Don't wait up. That's the night they had coffee, I said. Vanessa told me she had a client meeting that ran late. They coordinated their lies. Julia's voice was flat. This wasn't some chance encounter where old feelings resurfaced. They planned this. I pulled out my own phone, showing her Vanessa's text from earlier. She left her charger. Don't wait up. Love you. The casual way she'd signed off with love you after announcing her affair seemed even more insulting now. They both said they loved us tonight, Julia observed, right after betraying us. Maybe they think that makes it better somehow, like if they still love us, the cheating doesn't count. Julia scrolled through more messages on her phone. Mark's been getting a lot of unknown number calls lately. I asked him about it, and he said it was work stuff, potential clients. But what if it was her? Can you check his phone records? We're on the same plan. I can log into the account online. She pulled out her laptop, connecting to the restaurant's Wi-Fi. This might take a few minutes. While she worked, I found myself studying her face. She was pretty in an understated way, with kind eyes and laugh lines that suggested she smiled often under normal circumstances. She wore no makeup, and her wedding ring was a simple band, nothing like the elaborate set Vanessa had insisted on when we got engaged. Got it, Julia said, turning the laptop so I could see the screen. Look at this call log from the past 3 weeks. There were dozens of calls to and from a number I didn't recognize, often lasting 30 minutes or more. The frequency had increased dramatically in recent days, with multiple calls on the day Vanessa and Mark had supposedly run into each other for coffee. That has to be Vanessa's number, I said. They've been talking for hours. Not just talking. Look at the times. Some of these calls were at midnight, 1 a.m. Mark was sneaking out of bed to talk to her. The betrayal felt deeper with each revelation. This wasn't a spontaneous reunion between old lovers. This was a calculated affair, planned and executed with the precision Vanessa usually reserved for her legal cases. I need to see those hotel records, I said. If they've been planning this for weeks, tonight might not be the first time. Julia was already typing. Mark uses our joint credit card for everything. Let me check recent charges. The hotel charges were all there, dating back 2 weeks. The Marriott downtown, always on nights when Mark claimed to be working late, and Vanessa said she was at the office. They'd been sleeping together for at least 2 weeks, lying to our faces every morning after. I feel like an idiot, Julia said quietly. All those nights I made him dinner and kept it warm for when he got home from his client meetings. I even felt bad for him, working so hard. You're not an idiot. You trusted your husband. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. Is it, though? Maybe I should have been more suspicious. Maybe I should have checked up on him. No. I reached across the table, covering her hand with mine. This isn't our fault. They're the ones who chose to lie and cheat. We're the ones who honored our vows. She looked down at our joined hands, and I realized how intimate the gesture was. I started to pull away, but she held on. What are we going to do? She asked. I don't know yet, but I know I'm not going to sit at home waiting for Vanessa to come back and pretend this never happened. Mark will probably come home tomorrow morning with some story about falling asleep at his office or the client dinner running until dawn. And you'll know he's lying. Yeah. She squeezed my hand. I will. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our new reality settling over us. Our marriages were over, even if the paperwork hadn't been filed yet. Our spouses had made that decision for us when they chose to pursue their affair. Can I ask you something? Julia said. Are you angry? I considered the question. I was at first. Shocked, then angry. But now I think I'm just done. 10 years of marriage, and she threw it away for one night with her college boyfriend. How do you come back from that? You don't, Julia said firmly. At least I don't. I could maybe forgive a mistake, a moment of weakness. But this was planned. They've been lying to us for weeks, sneaking around, making fools of us. So what's our next move? Julia smiled for the first time since we'd met, and there was something fierce in it. We make sure they face consequences for what they've done. What kind of consequences? I'm still working that out, but I know I'm not going to make this easy for them. They want to blow up our families, fine, but they are going to own every bit of the damage they've caused. I felt something shift inside me, a cold determination replacing the shock and hurt. Vanessa had made her choice. She'd chosen Mark over our marriage, her selfish desires over our children's stability. She'd looked me in the eye and told me not to make her affair a problem. But it was going to be a problem, a very big problem. I think, I said slowly, we should go to my house. We have some planning to do. Julia nodded, closing her laptop. I think you're right. As we left the restaurant, I felt like I was stepping into a new version of my life. The old Ethan, the trusting husband who'd believed his wife when she said she was working late, was gone. In his place was someone harder, someone who understood that sometimes you had to fight fire with fire. Vanessa had started this war when she walked out our front door, but she wasn't going to be the one to finish it. My house felt different with Julia in it. Not wrong, exactly, but charged with potential energy, like the air before a thunderstorm. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Vanessa had applied her lipstick hours earlier and spread out everything we knew about our spouse's affair. They're probably together right now, Julia said, checking her phone. It's almost 2 a.m. Try not to think about it, I advised, though I was fighting the same mental images. Focus on what we can control. You're right. She pulled out a notebook from her purse. I'm a list person. It helps me think, so what do we know for certain? I watched her write, her handwriting neat and precise. We know they've been planning this for at least 3 weeks. We know they've been meeting at the Marriott for at least 2 weeks. We know they coordinated their lies to us. We know they're both willing to risk their marriages and families for this affair, Julia added. And we know they think they can get away with it. That last part is what gets me, I said. Vanessa actually told me she expected us to pretend it never happened, like I'd just accept being cheated on as long as she only did it once. Mark probably thinks the same thing. He's always been good at talking his way out of trouble. Julia's pen paused over the paper. Can I tell you something? I've been unhappy for a while. Not miserable, but unfulfilled. I thought about leaving him 6 months ago. What stopped you? The kids, the logistics, the fear of starting over. She looked up at me. But also, I thought maybe we could fix things. I suggested counseling, date nights, a vacation, just the two of us. He said he was too busy with work. Too busy with work, but not too busy to rekindle things with his college girlfriend. Exactly. And you know what the worst part is? If he'd just talked to me about being unhappy, if he'd said he wanted to separate or try counseling or anything, I might have been open to it, but he chose to lie and cheat instead. I understood exactly what she meant. If Vanessa had come to me months ago and said she was feeling trapped or unfulfilled, we could have worked on it. We could have gone to therapy, taken a trip together, found ways to reconnect. Instead, she'd chosen deception and betrayal. So what's our goal here? I asked. What do we want to accomplish? Julia was quiet for a long moment, tapping her pen against the notebook. I want them to face real consequences, not just the inconvenience of divorce proceedings, but actual accountability for what they've done. What does that look like? I don't know yet, but I know I don't want to be the understanding ex-wife who makes things easy for him. I don't want to quietly go away so he can rewrite history and make himself the victim. Vanessa's a lawyer, I said. She'll try to control the narrative, make it seem like our marriage was already over and this was just the final straw. She'll probably claim I was emotionally distant or that we'd grown apart. Will people believe that? Some will. People like simple explanations for complicated situations. It's easier to believe a marriage gradually fell apart than to accept that someone would blow up a happy family for an affair. Julia wrote something in her notebook, then looked up at me. What if we don't let them control the narrative? What do you mean? I mean, what if we make sure everyone knows exactly what happened? Not just that they had an affair, but how premeditated it was, how they lied to us, how they planned it while sitting at our dinner tables and kissing us goodnight. The idea had merit, but I could see potential problems. We'd have to be careful. Vanessa knows defamation law better than I do. If we say anything she can claim as false or damaging to her reputation. But it's not false. We have phone records, hotel charges, text messages. We have evidence. Evidence that they had an affair, yes, but we'd need to be strategic about how we use it. Julia smiled, and again I saw that fierce quality that suggested she was tougher than she appeared. I work in a hospital, Ethan. You know what we do when someone makes a mistake that could hurt people? What? We document everything, every detail, every timeline, every decision that led to the mistake, and then we make sure everyone learns from it so it doesn't happen again. You want to document their affair? I want to document their lies, their planning, their complete disregard for their families. She flipped to a new page in her notebook. And I want to make sure everyone who matters knows exactly what kind of people they really are. I felt a chill of anticipation. Everyone who matters? Their friends, their coworkers, your wife's law firm, Mark's business partners, the parents at your kids' school, our families. She looked up at me. People should know who they're really dealing with. That's comprehensive. They made a choice to humiliate us. Why should we protect them from the consequences of that choice? She had a point. Vanessa and Mark had been perfectly willing to lie to everyone around them to facilitate their affair. They'd involved our children, our families, our friends in their deception. Why should Julia and I be the only ones to suffer the consequences? Okay, I said. Let's say we decide to expose them. How do we do it without looking vindictive or crazy? We stick to facts. We don't editorialize or name-call. We just present the evidence and let people draw their own conclusions. And we coordinate our approach so they can't claim we're lying or exaggerating. Exactly. We're each other's corroboration. I looked at Julia, this woman I'd met just a few hours ago, and felt a strange sense of partnership forming. We were both victims of the same betrayal, both facing the same devastating choices about our futures. But together, how we had power our cheating spouses probably hadn't anticipated. There's something else we should consider, I said. The timing. What about it? Right now, they think they're in control. They think they can manage the fallout, control the information, maybe even convince us to keep quiet for the sake of the kids. But if we act fast, while they're still overconfident, we catch them off guard. They won't have time to prepare their defenses or coordinate their stories. Julia nodded slowly. How fast are we talking? Vanessa said she'd be home in the morning. If she sticks to that timeline, she'll probably walk in around 7 or 8 a.m., expecting to find me either devastated or resigned to the situation. What if she finds something else instead? I felt a cold smile spreading across my face. What if she finds you sitting at my kitchen table, and both of us completely prepared for what comes next? You want me to be here when she comes home? I want her to understand immediately that her little secret isn't secret anymore. I want her to see that her actions have consequences beyond what she imagined. Julia closed her notebook, decision made. Then I guess I'm not going home tonight? Are you sure? This is going to get ugly. Ethan, they made it ugly the moment they decided to cheat. We're just refusing to pretend otherwise. I stood up, suddenly energized despite the late hour. Coffee, we have a lot of planning to do before morning. Coffee sounds perfect. As I prepared a fresh pot, I caught a glimpse of myself in the dark kitchen window. The man looking back at me was someone I didn't entirely recognize. Harder, more determined, ready for a fight I'd never wanted, but was fully prepared to win. Vanessa had said I needed to understand her. By morning, she was going to understand me in ways she'd never imagined. The coffee had long since gone cold, but neither Julia nor I noticed. We'd been talking for hours, sometimes about strategy, sometimes about our marriages, sometimes about the strange situation that had brought us together. By 6 a.m., we had a plan that was both comprehensive and devastating. Are you nervous? Julia asked, checking her phone for what seemed like the 100th time. Terrified, I admitted, but also ready. I keep thinking about the way she kissed my cheek before leaving, like she was humoring a child. Mark texted me an hour ago. Said his client dinner ran really late and he was going to sleep at the office rather than wake me up coming home. Still lying, even now. Right up until the end. Julia's phone buzzed with another message. He's asking if I can pick up his dry cleaning today because he'll be busy with meetings. The audacity is almost impressive. Julia set her phone aside and looked at me seriously. Last chance to back out, Ethan. Once we do this, there's no going back. There was no going back the moment she walked out that door, I said. She made sure of that. The sound of a car in the driveway made us both freeze. It was 7:15 a.m., and through the kitchen window, I could see Vanessa's BMW pulling up to the house. She was early, probably eager to get this confrontation over with so she could shower and get ready for work. Showtime, Julia murmured. Vanessa's key turned in the front door, and I heard her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She was trying to be quiet, probably hoping to slip upstairs without waking anyone. The kids were still at my parents' house, but she didn't know that yet. Ethan, she called softly. Are you awake? In the kitchen, I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I heard her pause, probably surprised that I was up and dressed this early. Her footsteps approached the kitchen, slower now, more cautious. Vanessa appeared in the doorway looking exactly as I'd expected. Rumpled dress, smeared makeup, hair that had been hastily finger-combed. She reeked of alcohol and hotel soap, and there was a hickey on her neck that she'd tried unsuccessfully to cover with concealer. She stopped dead when she saw Julia sitting at our kitchen table. "What?" Vanessa's voice trailed off as recognition dawned. "What is she doing here?" "Comparing notes," I said calmly. "Julia, I'd like you to meet my wife, Vanessa. Vanessa, this is Julia Turner, Mark's wife." The color drained from Vanessa's face so quickly I thought she might faint. She grabbed the doorframe for support, her eyes darting between Julia and me as she tried to process the situation. "How long has she been here?" Vanessa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Julia checked her watch. "About 8 hours. We've had a very productive night." "8 hours?" Vanessa's voice cracked. "You've been here all night?" "We had a lot to discuss," I said. "Your affair with Mark, for instance. The hotel records, the phone calls, the elaborate lies you've both been telling." Vanessa stumbled into the kitchen. Her earlier confidence completely evaporated. "Ethan, I can explain." "No need," Julia interrupted, pulling out her notebook. "We've already figured it out. 3 weeks of planning, 2 weeks of actual cheating, dozens of coordinated lies. Very thorough work." "You went through my phone records?" Vanessa's shock was giving way to anger. "You had no right—" "Actually, I went through Mark's phone records," Julia corrected. "Since we're married and on the same plan, I have every right. Just like Ethan had every right to call me when his wife announced she was going to cheat on him." "You told her?" Vanessa whirled on me, her eyes blazing. "You called his wife?" "I thought she deserved to know where her husband really was last night, just like I deserved to know that my wife has been lying to me for weeks." Vanessa sank into a chair, her hands shaking. "This is insane. You're both insane. It was one night—" "It was 2 weeks of nights," Julia said firmly. "And 3 weeks of planning, and countless lies to both of us." "We have the hotel records," I added, sliding a printed sheet across the table. "Every charge, every date. You want to keep claiming it was just last night?" Vanessa stared at the paper, her face crumbling as she realized how thoroughly she'd been caught. "Where are the kids?" "Safe. At my parents' house. I sent them there yesterday evening, before you came home to announce your affair." "You planned this." Her voice was accusatory, as if I was the one who'd done something wrong. "You set me up." "No, Vanessa, you set yourself up. I just refuse to be a victim." Julia leaned forward, her voice gentle but implacable. "We know about the coffee date 3 weeks ago. We know about the midnight phone calls. We know Mark told me he was working late every night he was actually with you. And we know," I continued, "that you both planned to lie about it indefinitely, to keep us in the dark while you carried on your affair." Vanessa was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in dark streaks. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Mark said we could keep it separate, that no one had to get hurt." "But people did get hurt," Julia said quietly. "We got hurt. Your children got hurt, even if they don't know it yet. Our families got hurt." "I never meant for you to find out," Vanessa whispered. "That doesn't make it better," I said. "That makes it worse. You were willing to lie to me for the rest of our marriage." Vanessa looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "What happens now?" I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a manila envelope. "These are divorce papers. My lawyer prepared them last night." "Last night? How did you—" "Emergency filing. When you tell a family lawyer that your wife announced her intention to commit adultery and then left to do it, they tend to prioritize your case." Julia produced her own envelope. "Mine too. Mark's going to get quite a surprise when he comes home from his fake business meeting." Vanessa stared at the papers like they were a snake that might bite her. "You can't be serious. One mistake and you're ready to throw away 10 years of marriage?" "One mistake?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Vanessa, you planned this affair for weeks. You lied to me repeatedly. You told me to my face that you were going to cheat and I should just accept it. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern of choices." "And now you have to live with the consequences of those choices," Julia added. "What about the kids?" Vanessa asked desperately. "What about Dylan and Chloe?" "What about them?" "You should have thought about them before you decided to blow up their family." "I can fix this," Vanessa said, reaching for my hand. "I can end things with Mark. We can go to counseling. We can—" I pulled my hand away. "It's too late for that." "It's not too late. People work through affairs all the time. People work through affairs when they're confessed, when there's remorse, when the cheating spouse takes full responsibility and does the work to rebuild trust," Julia said. "Not when they're caught red-handed and immediately start making excuses." "I am taking responsibility." "No," I said firmly. "You're trying to minimize what you did. You're trying to make this about one night instead of weeks of betrayal. You're trying to blame me for setting you up instead of owning your choices." Vanessa buried her face in her hands. "I don't know what you want me to say." "There's nothing you can say," I replied. "You made your choice when you walked out that door last night. Now Julia and I are making ours." "Which is?" Julia and I exchanged a look. We'd discussed this part extensively during our all-night planning session. "We're going to make sure everyone knows exactly what happened," Julia said. "Your law firm, Mark's business partners, our families, our friends, everyone who's been lied to deserves to know the truth." "You can't do that," Vanessa said, panic creeping into her voice. That's harassment, defamation." "It's not defamation if it's true," I pointed out, "and we have documentation for everything." "My career should have been a consideration before you decided to have an affair," Julia finished. Vanessa looked between us, finally understanding that this wasn't a negotiation. This was a reckoning. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "I know you are," I said. "But sorry doesn't undo the damage. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't explain why you thought it was acceptable to announce your intention to cheat and expect me to just live with it." Julia stood up, gathering her things. "I should go. Mark will be home soon, and I want to be there when he arrives." "Thank you," I said, standing as well. "For everything, for believing me, for helping me see this clearly, for not letting me face this alone." "Thank you for calling me," she replied, "for giving me the chance to learn the truth instead of living with his lies." They hugged briefly, two people bonded by betrayal but strengthened by their refusal to be victims. After Julia left, Vanessa and I sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "What happens to us now?" "There is no us," I said gently. "You ended us when you chose Mark over our marriage. And the kids? We'll be fine. Kids are resilient, and they'll have two parents who love them, even if those parents can't live together anymore." "I never wanted this." "Yes, you did. You wanted the affair, you wanted the excitement, you wanted to feel desired. You just didn't want the consequences." Vanessa nodded slowly, finally accepting the reality of what she'd done. "I should pack some things." "Take your time? But Vanessa?" She looked up at me. "Don't ever tell me again that I need to understand you. I understand you perfectly now." As she walked upstairs to pack, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. The marriage was over, the betrayal was exposed, and the consequences were beginning. But for the first time in hours, I felt like I was in control of my own life again. Vanessa had chosen war when she walked out that door, but she'd forgotten that wars have casualties on both sides, and I'd just won the first battle. The next few days passed in a blur of phone calls, legal meetings, and carefully orchestrated revelations. Julia and I had decided to coordinate our approach, ensuring that the truth about our spouse's affair came out in a way that was both comprehensive and impossible to deny. Vanessa had moved in with her parents temporarily, taking only a suitcase and her wounded pride. She'd tried calling me several times, but I'd let everything go to voicemail. Her messages progressed from apologetic to angry to desperate, but I wasn't interested in hearing any of them. "Daddy, why did Mommy leave?" Chloe asked over breakfast on Saturday morning. I'd picked the kids up from my parents' house the day before, and they were still adjusting to Vanessa's absence. "Mommy and Daddy are having some problems," I said carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups need to live in different places while they figure things out." "Like when Tommy's parents got divorced?" Dylan asked. At 9, he was old enough to understand more than his sister, and I could see the worry in his eyes. "Maybe," I said honestly. "But no matter what happens between Mommy and me, we both love you very much, and that will never change." "Is it because of the man Mommy went to see?" Dylan asked quietly. I nearly choked on my coffee. "What do you know about that?" "I heard you fighting Thursday night, before Grandma and Grandpa picked us up. Mommy said something about meeting someone." I looked at my son, this perceptive little boy who missed nothing and felt my heart break a little. He shouldn't have to deal with this. Neither of them should. "Yes," I said finally. "Mommy made some choices that hurt our family. That's why she's staying at Grandma and Grandpa's house right now." "Are you sad, Daddy?" Chloe asked, climbing onto my lap. "I am sad," I admitted. "But I'm also grateful that I have you two. You're the best part of my life." Dylan nodded solemnly. "We love you too, Daddy." My phone buzzed with a text from Julia. "Mark came home this morning. It went about as well as you'd expect. How are you holding up?" I typed back, "Kids are asking questions. It's hard. How are yours?" "Confused but resilient. Want to meet for coffee later? I could use a friendly face." "Sure." 2 p.m. at the place on Elm Street? Perfect. See you then. The coffee shop was busy for a Saturday afternoon, but Julia and I found a quiet corner table where we could talk without being overheard. She looked tired but determined, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and her eyes bright with purpose. How did Mark take it? I asked. About as well as a cheater takes being caught, she said wryly. First he denied everything, then he claimed it was just an emotional affair, then he tried to blame me for not being supportive enough. The classic progression. He actually had the nerve to ask why I'd involved you, like I was supposed to handle his affair privately while he continued lying to both of us. What did you tell him? That he lost the right to privacy when he decided to cheat, and that if he didn't want his affair exposed, he shouldn't have had one. I smiled despite everything. I like your approach. I learned from the best, she said, raising her coffee cup in a mock toast. How's Vanessa handling things? She's been calling constantly. Her parents called too, wanting to know if we could work things out for the children's sake. Ah, yes, the children. Funny how the children become important after the affair is discovered. Right? Where was that concern when she was planning to cheat? Julia pulled out her phone. Speaking of which, I have some updates on our information campaign. Over the past few days, we'd been systematically sharing the truth about our spouse's affair with the people who mattered most. Not gossip or speculation, but documented facts presented in a calm, professional manner. I spoke with the head of nursing at the hospital, Julia continued, told her that Mark and I were divorcing due to his affair and that she might hear conflicting stories about what happened. She was very supportive. And Mark's business partners? Got the email yesterday. Hotel records, phone logs, timeline of the affair. Very professional, very factual. I simply said I thought they should know that Mark had been conducting personal business on company time. I whistled low. That's going to hurt. Good. He used company credit cards for some of those hotel rooms. They have a right to know. Vanessa's law firm was interesting, I said. Apparently she'd been distracted at work lately, missing deadlines, canceling client meetings. Now they know why. Consequences, Julia said with satisfaction. Long overdue consequences. The kids' school was the hardest conversation, I admitted, but I wanted them to hear it from me before the gossip mill started churning. How did they react? Professional sympathy. They deal with divorcing parents all the time, but they appreciated getting the real story instead of having to piece together rumors. Julia nodded. Our families? My parents are furious at Vanessa, but trying to stay neutral for the kids' sake. Vanessa's parents. Well, let's just say they're not happy with their daughter right now. Mark's family is in complete denial. His mother actually called to ask if I was sure I hadn't misunderstood the situation. Misunderstood your husband spending 2 weeks in hotel rooms with another woman? Apparently, there might be an innocent explanation I hadn't considered. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching other families go about their Saturday routines. Normal families, where parents didn't cheat and children didn't have to worry about divorce. Do you ever regret it? Julia asked suddenly. Going nuclear like this? I considered the question. No. Do you? Not for a second. They made their choices in private, but they expected us to deal with the consequences in private too. That's not how it works. Besides, I added, we're not doing anything vindictive. We're just refusing to protect them from the natural consequences of their actions. Exactly. If they didn't want people to know they were cheaters, they shouldn't have cheated. My phone buzzed with yet another call from Vanessa. I declined it automatically. She's persistent, Julia observed. She wants to control the narrative. Make this about our marriage problems instead of her affair. But that ship has sailed. Mark tried the same thing. Told people we'd been having problems for months. That the affair was just the final straw in an already dead marriage. What did you tell them? The truth. That I'd been trying to work on our marriage for months while he was secretly planning to cheat with his ex-girlfriend. The beauty of the truth is that it's consistent, I said. Lies require constant maintenance, but the truth just is. Julia smiled. Is it weird that I feel closer to you than I do to most of my actual friends right now? Not weird at all. Shared trauma creates bonds. Is that what this is? Trauma bonding? I thought about it. Maybe, but also you're the only person who really understands what I'm going through. Everyone else means well, but they haven't lived through having their spouse announce an affair like it's a dinner reservation. I'll cheat once, don't make it a problem, Julia quoted. I still can't believe she actually said that. Mark's version was almost as bad. It doesn't mean anything, it's just physical. As if that makes it better. As if reducing our marriage to something less important than his physical urges is supposed to be comforting. Julia checked her phone. I should get going. The kids will be home from my mom's soon, and I want to be there when they arrive. How are they handling everything? Better than I expected. Kids are more perceptive than we give them credit for. They knew something was wrong before I told them about the divorce. Same with mine. Dylan heard the argument Thursday night. He's been watching me carefully ever since, like he's worried I might disappear too. They'll be okay, Julia said firmly. We'll make sure of that. As we prepared to leave, Julia hesitated. Can I ask you something personal? After everything we've been through together. Ask away. Are you lonely? I mean, I know it's only been a few days, but are you okay being alone? I considered the question honestly. I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm worried about the kids. But lonely? Not really. I think I was lonelier in my marriage than I am now. I know exactly what you mean. There's something to be said for authentic solitude versus being ignored by someone who's supposed to love you. Besides, I added, I'm not really alone. I have the kids, my parents, my friends, and I have you. You do, she said simply. For whatever that's worth. It's worth a lot. As I watched Julia drive away, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Not for reconciliation with Vanessa. That was over. But for the future. For the possibility that life after betrayal might actually be better than life during it. Vanessa had thought she was choosing freedom when she walked out our door Thursday night, but she'd actually chosen consequences, and those consequences were just getting started. 2 weeks after what I'd started calling the night she chose war, Vanessa finally stopped calling and started showing up. I was in my home office reviewing the divorce paperwork my lawyer had prepared when I heard her key in the front door. The kids were at school, so at least they wouldn't witness whatever was about to happen. I'd changed the locks the previous week, but apparently Vanessa had made a copy of the new key from somewhere. I made a mental note to call the locksmith again. Ethan, she called out, her voice echoing through the house. We need to talk. I saved my work and walked downstairs, finding Vanessa in the living room. She looked different, thinner, tired, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Her usual polished appearance was replaced by jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. You changed the locks, she said without preamble. It's my house now, according to the divorce papers you've been avoiding. I'm not avoiding them. I'm trying to understand why you're being so vindictive. I almost laughed. Vindictive? Vanessa, you cheated on me for 2 weeks, announced it to my face, and expected me to just accept it. How exactly am I being vindictive? You've turned everyone against me, she said, her voice rising. My colleagues, my friends, even my own parents. You've made me into some kind of pariah. I've told people the truth. If that makes you look bad, maybe you should examine your actions instead of blaming me for talking about them. She started pacing, her agitation growing. You had no right to involve Julia. This was between us. No, it became between all of us the moment you decided to sleep with her husband. She deserved to know what Mark was really doing. You destroyed her marriage, too. Mark destroyed her marriage. I just refused to help him cover it up. Vanessa stopped pacing and stared at me. You've changed. You're not the man I married. You're right. The man you married would have probably accepted your affair and tried to work things out. He would have prioritized keeping the family together over his own self-respect. And what's wrong with that? Everything. Because it would have taught our children that love means accepting betrayal, that marriage vows are negotiable, that lying and cheating are forgivable as long as you apologize afterward. So instead, you're teaching them that families should be destroyed over one mistake. One mistake? I felt my carefully maintained composure starting to crack. Vanessa, you planned this affair for weeks. You lied to me repeatedly. You coordinated your deception with Mark down to the smallest detail. That's not one mistake. That's a sustained campaign of betrayal. She sank onto the couch, her anger deflating into something that looked like defeat. I never meant for it to go this far. What did you mean for, exactly? You told me you were going to cheat, and I should just accept it. What was your end game there? I thought you'd be upset, but that eventually you'd understand, that we could move past it. Move past it how? By pretending it never happened? By accepting that you might cheat again whenever you felt like you deserved it? It was never going to happen again. It was just Mark. Just this one time, because of our history. And I was supposed to believe that? After you'd already proven you could lie to my face for weeks? Vanessa was crying now, but they were angry tears, not remorseful ones. I made a mistake, Ethan. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean our entire marriage should be thrown away. Our marriage was thrown away the moment you chose Mark over our family. I'm just refusing to pretend otherwise. What about the kids? What about Dylan and Chloe? What about them? They'll have two parents who love them, even if those parents can't live together. They'll learn that actions have consequences and that self-respect matters. They'll learn that their father destroyed their family over his pride. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Is that really what you think this is about? My pride? Isn't it? No, Vanessa. This is about trust, about honesty, about the fundamental respect that marriage requires. You didn't just cheat on me, you announced your intention to cheat and told me not to make it a problem. You treated our marriage like it was disposable and me like I was an obstacle to your happiness. I never said that. You didn't have to. Your actions said it loud and clear. She wiped her eyes, leaving mascara streaks on her cheeks. So what now? You get your revenge and I lose everything? This isn't revenge, Vanessa. These are consequences. There's a difference. What difference? Revenge would be me trying to hurt you for the sake of hurting you. Consequences are you facing the natural results of your choices. I didn't make you cheat. I didn't make you lie. I didn't make you treat our marriage like it was negotiable. But you did choose to expose me to everyone who matters in my life. I chose to tell the truth to people who deserve to know it. Your law firm deserved to know why you'd been distracted and missing deadlines. Mark's business partners deserved to know why he'd been conducting personal affairs on company time. Our families deserved to know why their grandchildren's lives were being disrupted. And Julia? Did she deserve to know? Julia deserved to know that her husband was lying to her face every night while he planned his next hotel rendezvous with you. Yes. Vanessa stood up abruptly. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep fighting you. Then don't. Sign the divorce papers. Accept the custody arrangement. Move on with your life. What if I don't want to move on? What if I want to fight for our marriage? Then you should have thought of that before you decided to end it. I didn't end it. I made a mistake. You ended it when you chose Mark over our family. Everything since then has just been paperwork. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her finally beginning to understand that this wasn't a negotiation. This wasn't a temporary consequence she could wait out or talk her way past. This was the new reality. I hate you, she said quietly. I know. But I don't hate you, Vanessa. I'm disappointed in you. I'm angry at what you did to our family, but I don't hate you. How can you not hate me? Because hating you would mean letting you continue to control my emotions. I'm done giving you that power. She walked toward the front door, then stopped. The kids ask about me every day. I know, and I tell them the truth, that you love them, but that Mommy and Daddy can't live together anymore because of choices Mommy made. You're poisoning them against me. I'm refusing to lie to them. There's a difference. They're going to hate me too. Maybe. Or maybe they'll learn to understand that people are complicated and that loving someone doesn't mean excusing their behavior. She opened the front door, then looked back at me one last time. I really am sorry, Ethan, for all of it. I believe you, but sorry doesn't undo the damage. And there's really no way back? No chance for forgiveness? I thought about it honestly before answering. Forgiveness is possible, Vanessa, but reconciliation isn't. You didn't just break our marriage. You showed me who you really are when you think you can get away with it. I can forgive that, but I can't unknow it. She nodded slowly, finally understanding. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Vanessa. After she left, I sat in the quiet house and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Not because the confrontation was over, but because I'd finally said everything I needed to say. I'd stood up for myself, for our children, for the principle that actions have consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Julia. Mark finally signed the papers today. How are you holding up? I typed back, Vanessa just left. I think she finally understands it's really over. How do you feel? Free. And I did feel free. Free from the lies, free from the betrayal, free from the exhausting work of trying to save a marriage with someone who'd already decided it wasn't worth saving. Vanessa had thought she was choosing freedom when she walked out our door that Thursday night. But real freedom, I was learning, came from refusing to accept unacceptable behavior. It came from standing up for yourself even when it was hard. It came from choosing self-respect over false peace. The marriage was over, the betrayal was exposed, the consequences had been faced. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. 3 months later, I was loading groceries into my car when I saw them. Vanessa and Mark, walking out of a restaurant together, holding hands like teenagers. They looked happy, carefree, like people who'd gotten exactly what they wanted. For a moment, I felt a flicker of the old pain. Then I remembered Julia's words from our last coffee date. The best revenge is living well. I was living well. The kids were adjusting beautifully to our new normal. My work was going better than ever. I'd even started dating someone new, a teacher named Sarah who made me laugh and never made me question her honesty. Vanessa and Mark had gotten what they wanted, but they'd also gotten each other, two people who'd proven they were willing to lie and cheat when it suited them. They'd have to live with the knowledge of what they were capable of, and they'd have to trust each other despite knowing exactly how trustworthy they really were. As I drove home to pick up Dylan and Chloe from school, I realized that I'd gotten something better than revenge. I'd gotten my self-respect back. I'd gotten a life built on truth instead of lies. I'd gotten the chance to show my children that some things, like integrity and self-worth, are more important than keeping the peace. Vanessa had chosen war that Thursday night, but in the end, the only real winner was the truth.